Hey guys, this is Unit 2, Formative 1, day number 5, application of inequalities. Alright, the first one says if x is greater than -4 and y is less than 2, then x times y is greater than 0. Determine if this is always, sometimes, or never true. Okay, so we have to determine how we're going to set this up. So if x is greater than -4, it can be either a negative number or a positive number. And if y is less than 2, it can also be a negative or a positive number. So we have these different scenarios where we are going to set x, we're going to set x and y times each other. So let's try this. They both can be positive and negative, so we're going to have either a negative times a positive, a negative times a negative, or a positive times a positive. Those are the three cases that we can have when we use this. Okay? So let's try the first one. If we have a negative times a positive, that will give us a negative number. If we have a negative times a negative, that will give us a positive number. And if we have a positive times a positive, that will also give us a positive number. So if we look at our stipulation up here of x times y has to be greater than 0, we see that it's true for this case, but not our first case. And therefore, if it's always, sometimes, or never true, we're going to say that it is sometimes true. Okay, number 2 says define a variable and write an inequality that represents each situation. So letter A says a person must be at least 16 years old to have a driver's license. So at least 16 years old means they must be 16 years or older. Okay, so we're including 16. So if we define a variable like it says, let's call x a person's age. Okay, and if it's at least 16, we're going to say x is including 16, or it's greater than or equal to 16 years old. Okay, so this would be your answer. Letter B says a car must go at least 40 miles per hour on the interstate, but no faster than 75 miles per hour. Okay, so here we have a compound inequality. So let's again define our variable first. Let's call x speed. It's very important that you define these variables, otherwise I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so if x is speed, we want this in between 40 and 75 miles per hour. So our x is going to be in between there. And we know that 40 is going to be less than or equal to, because again it's at least, so we're including the 40. And no faster than 75 means that we can include 75 but not go faster, so we're going to be less than or equal to 75 miles per hour. Okay, so the way you would read this would be 40 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 75 miles per hour. Alright, number 3 says a teacher knows that the students will score within 4 points of the class's mean of 85%. Write an inequality that represents the test scores of each or of the students. Okay, so here we have a range. We want to go within 4 points. So that means either 4 points below 85 or 4 points above 85. So first off, let's figure out what that would be really quick. If we go 4 points below, that would be 81, and 4 points above would be 89%. Okay? Alright, so if this is where our scores are going to be, we're going to have x in between here. And again, we want to write this so that x is greater than or equal to our 81, and x is less than or equal to 89. So again, we read this as 81 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 89. And this is percentage points in this case. Okay, the last one says your test scores for science are 72% and 68%. What possible scores can you earn on the next test to have an average between 70 and 75 for all three? Write your answer in interval notation. Alright, so this one's a little bit tricky. First off, if we want to know our average right now, we can take 72 plus 68 and divide by 2, and of course we know that's going to be 70. It's going to be right in between those two. Okay, so we have to get at least a 70. So I'm going to say x is going to be at least, which means greater than or equal to a 70 on this next test. But then we also want to score between 70 and 75. Okay, so we want that to be our average. So to figure that out, we have to do this. We have to go 72 plus 68 plus, we don't know, I'm going to call it blank. And I'm going to put that in parentheses. Divided by 3 to get the average has to be equal to 75. Okay, so now it turns into a little bit of an algebra problem. What we can do is, if we call this x here, we can first multiply by 3 on both sides. Oops, I'll do it in white. Multiply by 3 on both sides. And then this will get rid of our 3's down here. 75 times 3, let's see, that's 225. So let me write this up here. 225. That's going to equal 72 plus 68 plus x. 72 plus 68 plus x. 72 plus 68 is 140 plus x equals 225. If I subtract 140 from both sides, I now have x is equal to, this would be 585. Okay, so x is also going to be less than or equal to 85. So if I write this up here, we're going to have 70 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 85 in order for my average to be between 70 and 75 for the next test. Okay?